We are Sports Take. We are hanging out with you on this Thursday, first day of December. Yes, hard to fathom, but that's where we are at this point, getting you set for the Eagles and the Titans coming up on Sunday at 1:00. All right. Elliott Shore-Parks had an interesting from WIP, interesting tweet that he threw out there a couple days ago. And thought we kind of dig into this a little bit with regarding the Eagles passing offense specifically. But let me just give you the overall numbers. They're third in scoring at 27.5. They are third in rushing at 162.5 per game. And they're 17th in passing overall, at 219.8. So that's kind of the baseline without getting into all the other stats right now. But if you look at the first 7 games, they passed for 200 on average for 245 yards per game, which was 8th best in the NFL, and they were scoring 32 per game during that stretch. Last 4, 174 yards in passing, which is 31st in the league, and they're scoring 26.7. So they're down about 6 points per game. Jalen Hurts, first 7 games, 257 yards passing per game. Last 4, 190. Rushing first 7 games, 43.2. Last 4, 73.5 rushing. I want to just kind of give you that baseline. To me, and you know where I always stand, guys. I don't care how you're getting it done on the ground or in the air. Just score. Just score, baby. And they're third in scoring.
Right.
But are we concerned here that it's trending in the wrong direction if you were in a game where you're going to have to throw yourself back into it, for example? Barrett, I know you have strong thoughts on this, so we'll start with you.
First off, the way that this team has been running the offense, besides last week and the end of the game against the Colts, they went to a passing offense. There was more drop back passes. Why? Because they wanted to protect Jalen Hurts. They thought that'd be the best thing for the best thing for this team is to protect him and not have him do so many things with his legs, which is totally contrary to how you win games when you know that's your greatest asset that your quarterback brings. He gives you the autonomy to give you a different look. When you defend Jalen Hurts in this offense, you're defending all 11 defenders. All 11 guys on the offensive side of the ball. When you play against guys like, for instance, like Matty Ice, you're only defending 10 guys. He's not a threat to run or do anything. And that's the biggest thing. We were throwing the ball because we were trying to protect Jalen. So in turn, we were still scoring efficiently. Just like, if you look at the time possession when we played against Washington, we had 6 minutes, 11 seconds in the first half. Why? We went down and scored. We were leading the game by 14 points. Because we were scoring efficiently through the air. He can throw the ball through the air. He can do it. But that's not how you win right now in the NFL. You win by keeping the opposing offense off the field. You keep them off the field. Teams started playing takeaway. The way you stop this offense is to keep them off the field. And that's exactly what teams started doing. Running the balls. It started with the Titans. With the Texans. Running the ball, keeping Jalen Hurts and his offense off the field. You run the ball, that puts the time possession in your hands. It keeps your offense off the field. That's what we were doing. That's why we were so effective. We were running the ball in the first half of the season and keeping the opposing offense off the field, which led to us scoring more, yes, but also the time possession kept us in the driver's seat because now it puts an earnest on that other opposing offense like, all right, we got to hurry up and score. That's basically what I feel has been going on. Now teams are playing keep away from us, and it's really hurting us because we were usually the aggressors as far as being in the time possession category.
Well, Barry, you mentioned a valid point. A thing that caught my ear when you were talking is they were throwing more because they were trying to protect Jalen. So I look at the numbers. In the 4 games leading up to the previous 2, he ran the ball a grand total of 26 times, and they were all single-digit amount of times he was running, whether it was by design or whether it was out of necessity. The last 2 games, he's tucked and run the ball 33 times.
And what's our record with those games?
No, I'm just saying, we're
Yeah.
talking about keeping that quarterback upright. I'm not even talking about the record, because you get to the record however you get to the record.
Right.
I'm just talking about in terms of protecting your quarterback. I don't even want to say protect him from himself, but protecting your quarterback to make sure he's exactly where you want him to be in January, which is upright and breathing. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I think that's the most important thing. So how do you balance that? Is there balance, or do we go by what we talk about all the time? Each game is a different scenario, and you do what you do out of necessity.
Derek, I think it just to Barrett, what Barrett was laying out there. I think I don't think they went into the game thinking he was going to run 17 times. Whatever.
I know that. I know
right?
that.
So I think they're cognizant of, we can't run the guy 1,000 times. Naturally, something could happen if you do that. But I think you got to win a game any way you win a game.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes it just sort of flows that way. I think, Barrett, you made a good point about what the other teams are doing, and I think all that's valid, man. I really do. You're right. When you needed to see him in a situation where, and it was a combo, I think it was his arm and his legs in the Colts game. He made a lot of big passes. People forget about that. They don't give any props for that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's there. I think he's capable of doing it, but I think they're playing to what his strength is. Like, if you're asking me, okay, if you had to pick one or the other, what does he do better? I think he's a better runner right now. It doesn't mean he hasn't improved a ton as a passer, because he has improved a ton as a passer. I think he is that guy.
Right.
But the Steeler game.
Steeler game is a good example. Yeah. But I think that, right now they're leaning a little bit more heavily on what he does best. But I'll put it to you this way. This week, that Titans team does not defend the pass well at all. I think you're going to see a big passing game from Jalen.
Yeah, that's what I think.
And if we don't, then maybe you have reason for a little bit of concern. If AJ shut down or Devontae shut down or whatever, then I think it's more reason for alarm than what you have right now.
If you're right, and if they go out there with the intention of throwing the ball, I can understand it. But just know that there's a counter to that. And that's exactly what it really feeds into what the Titans do. They want to drag it out, run the ball, keep the time possession on their side, keep that other quarterback off the field, keeps you from scoring. And I don't want to be in a situation where we feel like it's a dire need for us to push the ball on the field and score every time like we had to do against the Washington Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we got caught up in the wrong side of the stick as far as time possession. They're going to go in with that game, and we already know they're going to go in with that game time. Mm-hmm. We have to reverse it, though. We have to make them think that, time is running out on them as opposed to doing to us. We have to make it so, all right, he's not effective because he's not going to catch. Now, I will tell you this. You can best believe that Henry's going to be catching those little flare passes that they gave A.J. Dillon.
Yeah.
And looked like he was running the ball out, but they were actually passing to him. And he was running. It was like a long handoff. Now, guys start making business decisions. We got a big 250-pound, 6'3" running back out there going downhill, man.
Hey, Barry, if you were 6'2", 205, and you got to make a tackle on that dude in open space, what you doing? What you doing, man?
Look, if I had a white flag.
Look at.
I told you what I'm doing. My hamstring. Ooh. Ooh.
I ain't lying to you, man. I try. You know what? Just to say I did it, I would try to hit him one time, and after I felt the impact of my spine tingling, I'd lay there on the ground twitching, and foam be coming out of my mouth, and I'd have to come out and get me on the cart. I'm done for the day.
I'm faking a hammy, or I'm doing the dive at his shins move, and just hope I can chop him.
Right.
That's it.
Rob doing it.
Then he jumps right over you.
I know. I get hurdled, and it's the worst.
ESPN moment.
Yeah.
Rob doing the gritty flop.
Yeah, exactly. Man, live to see another day is my yeah, look, it's going to be here. I think it's going to be really a great test for two reasons. One, what's the run defense going to look like against Derrick Henry, and what are they going to be able to do in the air? Because so many people are on this thing now that they don't pass the ball well enough, or they haven't exactly lately, against a pass defense that's, frankly bad. I mean, the Titans' numbers in most categories are good. They're not good as far as their passing. They're, like I said with Tehran, they're 31st in the league. They give up 266 yards in the air. So, and he told you, their secondary it's okay. It's young, and guys are bored. I don't know how somebody's bored, but whatever. But you should be able to take advantage of that.
Mm.
I believe they will. I do believe they will. I just know that when I'm looking at that team, I don't see a confident team like that. That's why I asked Teron about that today. I don't see the same confident team that I saw last year when they won 12 games.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I still see a team trying to find its way. And we need to make sure that we keep them from finding their way this game. By beating this Eagles team, it would make them probably the most confident team in the AFC. Even more so confident than, even the Chiefs. Because now we beat the best team. Now we feel as though we're the best team. And I bet you they take that frame of mind going into the rest of the season. But we have to erase that. We have to no, you don't belong on the same field. I need to have them have the same. I need to have them look at, at the Eagles like, all right, we're almost untouchable. And then we in turn look at them like, all right, Titans, you guys are the middle of the pack type of team. We have to put that on them. You guys are middle of the pack type of team. We're the upper echelon. You're middle of the pack. And you almost have to have that arrogance about yourself when you're playing against them. Just, letting them know. I know what it is to have an attitude like that, because when I was with the Steelers, bro, I'm telling you, man, when we won that Super Bowl, even the year before, we would be on the field and already know we won the game. We'd be looking in guys' eyes like, all right, it's gonna be a long day for you, son. A long day for you. You don't deserve to be on the same field with us. And if the Eagles start getting that little, that little attitude about them, that edge about them, it could bode well for us going into the future. Yeah,
look, I mean, I think when you have Jalen as your quarterback, there's a confidence there. I'm not going to say he's got swag. I mean, there's a confidence for sure. I think what again, this gets back to, you're talking about a 10-1 team, and we're picking everything apart. It's just kind of the nature of the beast, right? But there's so many things that they do well that it's human nature a little bit to be concerned about things and I gotta look at that or whatever. But they figured out a way to win 10 out of 11 games, which
absolutely.
About But the thing that also I want to throw in there when it comes to the passing and what it's looked like the last couple of games, they are missing Dallas Goedert. And I'm not saying you should fall off the face of the earth when that happens, but that's a big loss. And that's going to change some of your statistics, at least, because you're losing a Pro Bowl tight end. And nobody stepped up. It's not like when Jordan Davis went down and they brought in Sue and Joseph, guys stepped up immediately. Stahl hasn't stepped up. Calcaterra hasn't stepped up. Tyree Jackson hasn't stepped up. Maybe they will, right? But they haven't so far. So that's an area where they could have ill afford to lose that guy, and they lost him. So I think that's going to play in. I think some of it is A.J. Brown hasn't been quite himself, whether it's fumbles, whether it's a ball he could have caught that he popped up in the air, became a pick in the Washington game, and we know he was sick. So I get it to an extent, but he needs to get back to being A.J. Brown. If he's ever going to get back to being A.J. Brown, it's this game. I want to see an explosion Devontae Smith game, and I haven't seen that in a long time. So there's a lot of things that could help factor in this. And I'm not like completely letting Jalen off the hook for everything. There's some throws he needs to make, but I think for the most part, a lot of it is circumstance around him, and you're running it so well that that's going to take the bulk of your time and your effort and your attempts. Plain and simple.
They have been better than anybody else in the NFL at adapting to overcome adversity. Bottom line, that's why they're sitting there at 10-1. They can win a high-scoring game. They showed you against the Colts. They can also win the low-scoring game when everything's not going right. They have had, except for one minor blip on the radar against Washington, they have had the ability. And let's face it, to get to 10 wins, it hasn't been perfect. But then again, what team is perfect when you're trying to get to where you want to go? There's a lot of hiccups. And there are hiccups that we don't even see, that coaches and players look at on film. They're like, man, we just got away with one. We got away with one here. But the bottom line is they're sitting at the king of the hill right now. They're at the top of the hill, and everybody else is trying to knock them off.
Yeah. And look, keep in mind for this game, you have a Tennessee team coming off a loss.
Absolutely.
And that's going to play into this thing too. It was interesting when Teron was talking about Tannehill getting, what do you say, a little cocky or whatever he ended up saying about him. Like, he's feeling himself a little bit. I wonder if you can bait him into some mistakes, even though the Eagles secondary is a little bit down. So that'll be something to keep your eye on as well, from a defensive standpoint.
And I'm not. When you look at the best quarterbacks in the game, they're all cocky, and I'm not putting him in that category as one of the best quarterbacks in the game. But they all have that certain inner cockiness about them when things are going well, and that's what a coach wants from his quarterback. Confidence is one thing, but there's nothing wrong with having a little swag as well. Players feed off that stuff, you know. Now, if you're a Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson, and you're trying to push that image, and they're like, man, sit your butt down somewhere. Look at our numbers. Sit your behind down somewhere, man. Shut up. We don't want to hear nothing you have to say right now. You're one of the highest paid players in the league, and look at what you put us in. Look at the situation you put us in. And you not Russell, but Kyler. And you diamond people out. You're going to get the coach fired. You're going to get some of us fired as well. Sit your behind down somewhere. I can't hear nothing you saying right now.
Yeah, man. Look, you're right. We can hit it now. I mean, Patrick Peterson said something I think a lot of people have been thinking for a long time. He said Kyler Murray on his podcast. He said Kyler Murray only cares about Kyler Murray. Now, Kyler shot back and said, hey, you got my number. You're supposed to be a mentor. I'm whatever, paraphrasing. But, that's interesting insight for a guy who played with him for 2 years. You see it. You see the body language. You see the finger pointing. And whatever. That's their problem. My point is you don't see any of that stuff with Jalen Hurts.
No.
Jalen Hurts is a leader. And
on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
On both sides of the ball. And that's huge. People kind of downplay that a little bit, but that entire team respects him. Like defense, they're all on board. So they talk about him like he's on their side of the ball. There is a difference in the locker room between the defensive side of the ball and the offensive side of the ball. Whether people want to admit it or not, they're all teammates. But it's almost like, it's still a divided separation in locker rooms. Offensive guys are different from defensive guys. You know what I'm saying? It's just the nature of how the NFL is. You spend so much time around basically the guys in your position and the offensive side of the ball that you don't really have an opportunity throughout the day really to intermingle. You have lunch, but you're in meetings all day. You're on the practice field all day. You work position guys all day. You're meeting together as units. But that team really and truly believes in him and what he can do and where he can take this team. They truly believe he could take this team to the Super Bowl and win it.
Yep.
All of them per man. All 52 guys in Jalen feel as though he could take them to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl.
And that's not just, players speak. They believe in this guy. That's real. That's real.
Absolutely.
All right, let's step aside. Let's come back. I'm going to follow up on the Malcolm Jenkins stuff and the possibility of him coming back to the Eagles, something that he tweeted out that may go along the lines of what Gunnar reported. I want to get into that in the defense a little bit, positive and negative on the defensive side of the ball. We'll dig into all those kind of things when we come back. Don't go anywhere. That's Barrett. That's Derek. I'm Rob. We're hanging out with you on this Thursday. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. All right, Pro Action Restoration. Pro Action Restoration is a great resource to have if you have a home, a business, a property of yours that experiences fire, water, smoke damage, mold damage, whatever the case may be, because they're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist. I can tell you that from personal experience. It happened at my parents' house. Called them on a Saturday. They got right over there. They fixed the problem. They cleaned everything up. The price was reasonable. The crew was great. It was an unbelievable experience, and it was a big sigh of relief, quite frankly. They are licensed, bonded, fully insured. They've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So again, it could be any of the above. It could be water, it could be fire, it could be smoke, it could be mold remediation. Any of the above, and then some, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.